It's fun. Aaron gets to see all these fun things I don't see.
That's cool.
Well, good morning. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and today I'm joined by our recurring guest star, Lynn.
Oh my God, good morning. Early morning.
Unfortunately, Aaron couldn't be here today, but he will be missed. But the show must go on.
Well, we got some good stuff to talk about, so that's cool.
Yeah, so today we are finally getting around to talking about Venice Season 3, Episodes 7 through 12, so the second part. It's been a while since we've chatted about this. So I will roll the credits, and we will get right into it. And look, Aaron was there in spirit. We saw his picture.
Oh, yes, exactly. Guest appearance this morning, irregardless.
So it was a little bit jarring because I kind of had to go through the annals of my memory to remember what happened in the first half.
Right.
So the first episode, we're starting off with a party to, I guess, welcome Gina back to her project or commemorate her for a job well done.
Right.
And she brings her ex-boyfriend, who now knows she's a gay woman.
Richard, yes.
Richard, played by Peter Reckel.
Yes.
To the party with her as her date. An ex-girlfriend of hers named Logan is there.
Yes.
Played by Judy Evans.
She looked fabulous, by the way.
She did.
She looked amazing.
I feel like the more I see Judy Evans, the more I love her.
She's done I didn't a lot.
I knew she was on Days in the 80s, and she was also on
Guiding
Another
Light
World.
That. She was on Guiding Light before Days, even. Yeah.
And Another World. But I didn't know her until she came back to Days playing Bonnie, and I didn't like Bonnie, so I really didn't have an appreciation for her.
Got it.
But now I like Bonnie because she's written differently, and she's more comedic.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Logan. And everybody seems to know Logan, I guess.
And they don't seem too fond of her either. They're kind of like, oh, hi, you're here.
Yeah. What was Gina's assistant's name? The one that submitted her.
I want to say her name's Michelle.
Okay. She's there and she's like not thrilled. She's like, Gina's not going to be happy about this, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is there? Oh, and Annie goes there to photograph. She was hired to photograph the event. And Lara wasn't too pleased with that, but Lara's kind of...
Gaia's there too, I think, as well.
So Gaia shows up towards the end, and when she showed up with those big glasses on, I didn't know if we were going for a hungover moment, but it was never addressed. She just took them off eventually, but because we know these characters drink a lot, right. I felt like that's what was happening. She walked in with these huge glasses, and she sees Logan, and she's like, "What fresh hell is this?"
She's got great one-liners. I love her.
I think she's my favorite character. She cracks me up.
She is my favorite character.
I'm just so invested in her scenes because she's just amazing.
She brings that dry humor and just slides it in there. That's the funny thing.
Owen's not there, right? He didn't go to the party?
I'm trying to remember I don't know if he was there for this.
I know the cousin was, played by Eric Martzoff.
Right.
Van,
yep.
Wow, I got that out of my memory. And he's still plotting some sort of revenge on his cousin.
Right.
Because, I don't know, what's the revenge for? His mommy didn't pay attention to him?
I think he was jealous of the fact that Gina and Owen's mom passed away, and so then his mom kind of became a little bit of a surrogate mom. He probably felt a little neglected and didn't want to share. So his mommy, that's where Gaia screwed up. She didn't teach him how to share as a little kid. So he's got revenge on his mind, at least to Owen, another male figure in his life that he doesn't like that. So doesn't really seem to have it out for Gina, but he's got it out for Owen for sure.
Yeah, well, they probably had an ongoing rivalry as kids, whether it be sports, girls, whatever,
Right,
just because of the
exactly.
situation.
Yes.
Guy is still being haunted by this dead hooker, and I'm like, this dead hooker is still around? I feel like this hooker's been around forever.
Exactly. She hasn't crossed over yet, unfortunately.
I honestly was like, oh, I thought we finished this story.
Right?
But I guess not. It also probably feels longer because of the amount of time in between episodes we've covered.
Right.
We also... So... No, I'm jumping ahead.
This is also when, the reason why they're there for the event is this is kind of the big broadcast push about the hotel that Gina supposedly did the designs for. So Alan's there, toasts are being made in Gina's name, and then Gina gets up there and says some words and basically reveals that no, it's Michelle was the brains behind this, and they cascade her to the front, basically.
Yeah, I did not remember this, so I was actually pleased. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really know where that story was going to go.
Right.
I laughed when Alan, he had a line where he mentioned, oh, this party should be interesting. You have 2 of your exes here. And she said something like, technically 3. And it didn't even dawn on me to think about Richard. I was like, is there a random girl here she hooked up with? And then I was like, oh, she means Richard.
Yep, exactly. She sure does.
And right away, she downs the martini and she's like, can you get me another one?
Right?
I'm like, those have to be water in real life. She can't just down vodka like that.
Exactly.
Or maybe she can. We don't know.
It was a big one, and when she handed it to Richard to go get another one, he's like, okay, and off he goes right away.
It reminded me of the scene, I think it was earlier in the season, when Gaia saw the picture of the woman she's seeing as the dead hooker, and she downed her drink and Brandon's drink, and then she looked at him and says, aren't you going to have one?
Exactly. Hot tails galore on that show.
Where was I going with this? Oh, so the funeral is finally happening for this dead hooker that's been dead for 2 seasons, it feels like.
But what a funeral it was. Oh my gosh.
And Gaia's boyfriend, who's a cop, Brandon, and his partner are kind of staking out the funeral to see if anybody suspicious shows up.
Right. They're trying to see if there's a suspect or something to tie to this dead hooker's body, basically.
Because although she naturally died of an aneurysm, they don't believe. Well, her body was delivered to the funeral home, so exactly. they want to figure out what happened.
Very suspicious how that happened, so that's why the cops are still involved. How funny was that scene though when Brandon and his partner are watching the monitors and they see Gaia just having a conversation with herself. Meanwhile,
yeah, they're like, who is she talking to?
Meanwhile, she's talking to the spirit of the dead hooker, and we get to see that. But then when they cut to the cams and those guys watched it, and he's like, what is she doing here? And what is up with her? Who the hell is she talking to?
When she was in the car, kind of amping herself up to go in there, and the spirit was in the background, in the backseat talking to her. I was like, wow, she's going in sober, and then she's like, liquid courage, and I was like, there it is. And she a swig of the play. And then with the bartender.
I know.
I think his name was Brian. She's like, oh, these are delicious, Brian. Keep them coming.
That's awesome.
And her mission is to basically make amends with everybody at the funeral, hoping that this will make this beer go away.
Right.
And then she says, Brian, he makes a fabulous drink. You should have one.
Promoting him. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I really didn't think about my own funeral someday, but having a bar there probably sounds like an excellent idea.
I've never even thought of that, and I was like, that is a really good idea. So apparently girls in her uh, I don't know what you would call it, prostitution ring,
Right.
are the ones that set up this funeral. So that's why there's a bar there.
Mhm.
But her mother's there, played by Susan Seaforth Hayes, which I forgot she was even on this.
Total great guest stink for her, and she played it to the hilt. Because right away she's instantly flirting with Richard.
Which is weird because of the dynamic that they've always had on D's. So
I
it's like,
get it.
oh, this
But
is
then she's like,
different.
let's go to the bar and get a drink. And he's like, there's a bar? And she's like, of course there's a bar.
And she's like the one good idea these nitwits had or something like that.
She's so good. I love her.
um, Richard gets a phone call, and apparently there is a girl in town looking for her biological parents, and she thinks that he might be her father.
Dun, dun, dun. Just out of the blue.
Yeah, so he starts to kind of put pieces of the puzzle together that right after high school, I think it was, Gina went to college in Boston and didn't come back for holiday breaks that year.
Yep.
And he kind of questions her about it. And she doesn't lie, but she kind of like tries to deter the conversation. But she ends up telling the truth that she was pregnant and she gave the baby up for adoption.
Which was pretty shocking. I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either.
But it's a nice twist. I like it. I thought it was very well done. And his reaction, his emotional reaction was very powerful and good. He's pretty upset with her.
Yeah. We also have the Colonel, who is at the funeral and is asked to say a few words.
Yes.
So apparently he's had an ongoing relationship with this hooker. I don't know if it was always sexual, but he seemed to have liked her company, and
Right.
he had a few nice words to say about her. Like, he
Yeah.
liked their conversations. What is their friend's name that sings and got rid of the body? And
Jamie. Oh my God, Jamie. Jamie, the one who got rid of the body, and you're right, sings. He's got his little boyfriend there for support. But the song that he sang was hilarious.
Well, Gina and Owen can barely like keep it together. They have to like leave the premises because they're just like cracking up. Well, they weren't cracking up over the song. They were actually cracking up over their father saying a few words.
Right.
Yeah, that song. I'm like, did he write this?
I mean, I thought this episode was so rock solid just for the humor that it brought, how it brought all the cast together and how they're interacting. It was a nice little umbrella episode packaged quite well.
I mean, going off of the chorus, I'm just going to assume the song was called She Got Paid to Get Laid. And I was like, what is happening?
And good for her.
With her mother there.
She was just sipping her drink going, whatever.
I mean, it wasn't a secret. Her mom was like, she was a hooker. What are
I know. It was funny. God, it was funny.
So Brandon approaches Gaia at the bar and asks why she's there, and she just says that she's seeing spirits or whatever, and he's going off of that, and he's like, "You have any suspects?" Like, he's like trying to use this as a way of finding out what happened.
Yes.
She also introduced him to the bartender.
Of course.
Okay, so was his partner hitting on Gina?
I wondered the same thing. It seemed like it.
Like, she gave her a card and she said, you know, if you need any police business or not police business. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I think there was definitely a hit on happening there. Like, well,
Yeah.
hey, there's pretty attractive people here. And look at Miss Gina.
So Brandon doesn't really question Gaia when she says she sees dead people, basically. But he does question it when her whole family is there.
Right.
So she tells him the whole story, aside from his partner.
Right.
And
it was time. She needed to get him up to speed because she was doing her own detective work off of the detective work that he was doing and learning the inside scoop. So she had to kind of bring him in the loop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot to mention, even prior to this, at the party for the hotel, when she took the glasses off, is when she told Gina that she knew the whole story.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so Gina knows that everyone's in the loop pretty much, except for Owen, right?
I think you're right. I think you're right. Owen's always the last to know on everything. Gina doesn't share too much about her dad or what's going on in personal life. Gaia doesn't either. So Owen's kind of like, do. Sorry, but he kind of is.
Yeah, and he's like hanging out a lot more with his one night stand.
That's
That
turned into a multiple night stand, but yes.
Yeah, he's kind of dating her now,
Right?
but she's in cahoots with Van to break his heart.
And she's being strong armed by Van. That's what's so weird. Whatever, I'm not really certain what he's got over on her, or she's starting to have feelings for Owen and feel bad. So she's getting pulled into that Owen relationship. But Van's like, oh, well, we're on a mission and don't forget that. But then Van is also dipping in that same pond too.
Yeah, they're also sleeping together, but I don't know if I heard this correctly. But is the plan to make him fall for her and then have him have him walk in on her in bed with Van?
Owen would walk in on her and Van. I'm guessing that's what the goal is. He wants to hurt Owen.
Yeah. And I guess that's...
And maybe he's doing that because, oh my God, and I'm forgetting her name now because we haven't even talked about her. She was first played by Gina Tonioni. Sammy, maybe he feels close to Sammy and he feels Owen was really bad to Sammy and he wants to get revenge for her also as well. As well as Van just doesn't like Owen is basically a big part of it too.
Yeah. So that's another thing. I know I said this in the previous half of the season. I like this character of Sammy, but it feels like a different character than the one that Gina Tonioni was playing.
I can see that. You know what I mean? It was a pretty jarring recast, I guess, if we will.
And I'm not even like talking about looks wise. I'm just the portrayal feels different.
Right. I think Gina's she plays a strong woman, really. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's being represented quite that way with this actress. I don't know.
Yeah, like Gina's version, she was like this philanthropic person who like was in Africa, like doing like deeds and like
very confident in her self-esteem to do these type of projects and be independent, but still have people in her life. But yes, just very confident with what she was doing.
And this version just feels like like a maybe like late teens, early 20s person who can't get over her ex and just day drinks all day. Like she's not volunteering at the soup kitchen.
Right. Yeah.
Also, I think if I remember correctly, the woman that Owen is sleeping with and working with Van is also a bartender at the bar that Sammy and now Lara frequent.
Is she working at that same bar? I guess
I feel like I remember a scene where she served them.
Okay.
And I could be wrong. I could be just trying to tie everybody together in my head. But I feel like I remember that.
But Sammy and Laura are hanging out at that bar a lot.
Oh yeah, they're besties. You know, sober Laura, but she's always at the bar. There was a scene where she pops an Altoid. She had gotten home a few minutes before Annie, and she like set up her like laptop to make it look like she had been writing all day.
Right.
And popped an Altoid, and I'm like, one Altoid is not going to mask the taste of vodka when you guys kiss.
Oh, I know.
And when you've been drinking all day, you are visibly glazed over. Like, Annie can't see she's drunk.
But she didn't let Annie kiss her. She let her kiss her like side of the face, but she sat on the couch with her back to her.
Oh yeah, she was like
leaned into her. Yep, exactly. She knew what she was doing. She knows she's done this route before.
Annie comes back from the earlier party and sees that Lara had been writing, and she notices a bunch of napkins that had been like notes written on them. Yes. And one of the napkins has the bar's name on it.
Laura gets defensive right away when Annie questions her, were you at a bar? Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, I love me some Nadia Bjorlund. Love her. So whatever she does, I'm just going to like love that character. But it was pretty messed up that she was like really? I trust you to go, even though I don't want you to go to a party that Gina's at, and it doesn't make me feel good, but I trust you and I love you and I let it happen, and you're really gonna question me? You know I go there to write. Like, go to the park to write. Why do you have to go to a bar?
Warning, warning, when they're so defensive right away, there's smoke, there probably is fire. Let's put it that way.
And then I think she kind of is like, I'm going to bed, and she storms off, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
you really believe your own lie.
Yeah.
I think that's like the thing with like a pathological liar. They believe their own lie, and that's why they're so good at it.
Well, and Laura still knows, and as we discussed in previous episodes, she was the one that interceded and read that letter that Gina wrote to Annie. So she knows that Gina's still got feelings for Annie, and she's been hiding that secret. So she also has that and is carrying that inside her, and she's feeling threatened by that.
So speaking of that letter, we have a scene where Laura's home alone drinking in the kitchen, reading the letter.
Yep.
And she sets the letter on fire and puts it in a dish.
Yep.
Their mail dish, pretty much, because it looks like that's where they throw the mail.
Sure.
I love the background music. I was like, wow, they really like up the ante with the music for the high drama.
Like, budget is going up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why the episodes are longer, I'm assuming.
I think you're right.
But me, I just can't take it for what it is. I'm like, that's so reckless. I'm like, the whole house is going to smell like smoke. Why aren't the smoke alarms going off? Like, why couldn't you put this in a fireplace? And if you didn't have a fireplace, a fire pit outside.
I thought Annie would find that letter, but the most she found was just the ashes in the bowl, and she kind of even blew it off.
Even that irritated me. I was like, why didn't you clean the bowl out?
Right?
Like, why didn't you wipe it down? There's like sleep.
Because Laura's sloppy drunk, unfortunately.
High functioning, but sloppy.
Exactly. Writes a few pages, has somebody read them, then back to the bottle.
She's like, I gotta go meet Sammy. It's happy hour.
So Laura's a combination of Knots Landing's Val and Gary. Val the writer, Gary the drinker. We'll just put it together and we got Laura.
Speaking of which, it's always fun for me when we cover Venice not too long after we do a Knots episode, because it's like, oh, we get to see Chip twice.
Yes, true.
Different stages of his life.
And it's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Michael Sabatino, husband to Crystal Chappelle.
Oh, happy birthday.
See, it's just all full circle, Tommy. All these soaps just kind of all bleed into one giant mega soap.
I feel like a lot of them have birthdays close to each other, because we had Constance last week.
Right.
And then I think Michelle Lee was yesterday, and now him. I'm like, oh.
Joan Van Ark was a few days before that. There's a lot of Knots Landing birthdays in June. A lot.
Oh, too bad they weren't filming in June. They could have just like a week-long birthday for the whole cast.
Right. Ted Shackelford's birthday was this last week too. It was Gary. At the beginning of the month, it was Lisa Hartman's birthday. So there's a lot of them. Yeah, a lot of them. Ginger's birthday was this month too.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
I know. It's like boom, boom, boom. You trace it back. I'm like, October was kind of a busy month for knocking boots, I guess, for that.
I know. I think this morning I was like, well, let's see which Knots actor's birthday it is today. But anyway, back to Venice. So we did the letter being burned. Oh, the Colonel. I'm really enjoying the dynamic between the Colonel and his caretaker.
Yeah. Yes, she's good. Dot is... That's giving some balance to him and grounding him a little bit and making him a more likable and interesting character, which is good, instead of just being so rough and that's it.
And we kind of get a little insight into her life. Like, she's mentioned that she was married and she lost her partner. She passed.
Right.
And that she has a kid. And we got a little more insight on that. I feel like it's softening him to same-sex relationships. Because he's hearing her talk about the dynamics of her relationship.
Yes.
And how much she loves her, and I feel like it's helping him to understand where his daughter's coming from.
Right. Maybe him help realize that people are just people. Love is love, and one should just have conversations about that and see that and understand it. It really just shouldn't be a big deal.
So they talk about their kids. So she has a rough time because her son was being bullied at school for having two moms, and it didn't stop when he said that one of his moms had passed, and he ended up punching one of the kids and getting suspended.
Right.
So she's like, venting to the colonel about this, and um, she mentions that he asked her if she always wanted to have kids, and she said, "Oh God, no. That was all. I can't remember who her wife's name was." Um, but
Do you
she,
think?
but
Do you think the
obviously she
colonel?
loves her.
Do you think the
Huh?
colonel? Do you think the colonel knew that Gina was pregnant? I guess not. I don't think that is the case based on what we've seen, but it just made me pause on that a little bit too. That'd be another interesting
I don't
fact.
think so because when Richard was asking him about that year of college, he asked if, or the colonel mentioned that she didn't come home for holidays that year. So I don't think he knew.
And you're right. There is a scene, I believe, later that happened between Richard and Gina said, oh, the colonel would have pushed us together and made us have
Hmm.
this baby. And she wasn't ready for that because
Oh,
she
that's
went
right. Yeah.
through her own idea. So I guess that didn't happen, but that would have been an interesting dynamic if somebody else would have been in on the secret. But it's okay how it's coming out.
Um, so this conversation that the colonel and Dot, is that the character's name also?
I
I believe
believe,
it
well, at
is.
least IMDb is listing her that way. Or, no, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, IMDb lists her just as nurse, and I want to give the poor woman a name, so I'm going to call her Dot. Because that's the
uh,
actress's real name. Yeah.
I
Got
think
her.
that this conversation prompts the colonel to kind of reach out to Owen and kind of start to have a relationship with him because they have a really contentious relationship.
Right.
Uh,
Yes.
so we see scenes of the colonel going over there, and sure enough, because that whole family drinks, he's got a 6 pack.
Mhm.
And Gina comes to the colonel's house and sees Dot folding laundry, and she mentions that's where he is, and she's like, "I know that that's your influence," and she thanks her.
Nice.
And Gina kind of wants to, vent and like talk about her stuff. So she asks if she wants coffee. And then the next scene that we see, they're drinking wine. I'm like, how did coffee turn to wine?
I think it's magically the case in Venice. I don't know. I've not been there, but maybe I should move there. That sounds kind of appealing.
um, and there's this little bit intimate moment. And I had remembered that there was a kiss with Dot, but in my head, I made it the Colonel.
Oh.
I was like, they're really connecting. They're the ones that kiss, but it wasn't. It was Gina and her that kissed.
Yeah. It was
And I
kind
was
of
like,
weird.
hmm.
Yeah.
So it was all brand new to me.
Yes.
I think it was probably a little bit the alcohol and just, feeling like you're connecting to somebody that they just felt this closeness and that's why they kissed.
Alcohol will do that to people.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the last we see of them for the season, I believe.
I think so. I don't know that we saw the nurse Dot anymore after that.
Yeah. Or Gina. I think that was like their ending scene, the cliffhanger.
Oh, right. Right.
um, so we see the colonel going over to Owen's apartment, and Sammy is also going over there. Oh, we also had a scene where Sammy kind of had like a split personality.
Definitely. I mean, when you're looking in the mirror and talking to yourself, and you can kind of see that change happening, and that's what kind of happened in her eyes, and just even how she chose to dress a little bit differently, do her
And
hair and makeup.
she even spoke to herself as like a separate person. She's like,
Right.
"You really gonna let him do this to you?" And I was
Right.
like,
Yeah. There was definitely another personality that was coming through. Hello, Sybil. Here you are.
again, I could have seen Gina playing this,
Oh, yeah.
but the way that she portrayed the character for the first 2 seasons, it just feels like a different character.
Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Annika Noel's doing great. She's doing a great
She
job.
is. She
I do
is.
like the character. It feels different.
She kind of came in during a transition where she was kind of going through that mourning period. So it just didn't make her dynamically stand out. Now they're writing something that's making you go, whoa, what's going on here? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's good. That's good.
So she goes to Owen. She gets there before the colonel. And while he's pouring them, I guess, a glass of wine or something to drink, she grabs a pair of scissors.
Right. Holds him behind her back and starts walking slowly towards him.
And the next scene we see is her sneaking out. And I couldn't remember if she left the door cracked or if she closed it and the colonel was just going to be knocking and figured he wasn't home. But she left it cracked and she sneaks off before the colonel gets there.
Right.
The colonel walks in and sees Owen on the floor,
Mhm.
unconscious and in a pool of blood.
Runs to him right away. And yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so that was another cliffhanger.
Right.
On the Richard front, we have the 20-something-year-old that's been looking for her biological parents approach him and say, I think you're my father.
Right.
Are you familiar with Molly Burnett?
Was she on Days?
She was on Days, but she also a number of times has played a temporary Maxie on GH.
Exactly. I think there was a summer where she was there for like the month of July practically.
Mm-hmm.
And she had like red hair, so they didn't like try and dye her hair blonde to look like Maxie. And she's really cute. She was good. I liked her.
I didn't love her character on Days at first because she was fucking with my couple.
Got it.
But once she kind of had her own thing going on the side, I really did grow to like her.
Nice.
She hasn't been on. She's connected to a family I don't love or a character I don't love. Ironically, she is Crystal Chappelle's character's daughter on Days also.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it's her and Daniel Jonas's daughter, played by Sean Christian.
Got it.
So I thought it was interesting that now Bo and Carly have a daughter on this.
It's funny. Aaron, you're missing out. This would have been your dream conversation to talk about.
What was the other cliffhanger? Oh, so Gaia. The spirit of Katie, right?
Well, first, let's say Gaia and Brandon did talk, and Brandon made it sound like he's going to shut the investigation down into the dead hooker and kind of just put a button in it and not pursue it anymore and tell his superiors that there's no more leads and it's got to be because of XYZ. And she's kind of like, phew, and patting her head off of that. So now
that it was a John that panicked and didn't know what to do. She's like, well, that is the truth. Exactly. You just don't know who the John was.
Stop snooping to pull her family into a police investigation. So they don't have to worry about that anymore. But now Gaia's got this spirit that she's still trying to resolve and help cross over.
Mm-hmm. And we also see that blonde that makes like sporadic appearances with Gaia.
Oh, Tina Sloan's character, Catherine.
Yeah. What show is she from?
She used to be on Guiding Light. She was on there for decades. She was Beth Chamberlain's mom on Guiding Light.
Oh, okay. Oh, Beth. Okay, I know who Beth is.
Beth and Philip, or Beth and Lou Jack back in the day. And
Beth is Lizzie's mother, right?
Correct.
Okay. I know who Beth is. Okay. So she has a scene with her. I love how Guy just like rubs her and like smells her aura.
Right, yes. and she's just kind of going with it like, okay, whatever you need to do for this reading.
And she's like, I have a love interest. And she's like, oh, who is she? She's like, well, you're wrong about it being a girl. Remember when she thought she was like at the bar, like checking out all these women?
Yes. But then she says it's Alan, and Gaia's like, really? I thought he was gay. And then she's like, well,
I thought he was gay too.
Yeah, he's got 3 ex-wives, and it's like, okay, good God.
She's like, he probably wishes he was gay.
Right? That's it. Oh my God.
We also see, side note, just to wrap her up, Michelle not being really able to handle the workload / social requirements that this new job is requiring.
Right. And Gina's not there for her, so she ironically turns to Annie, and Annie's there being a supportive friend and coaching her through it all, really, which was good to see.
Yeah.
Annie's too nice for her own good, but and she's got to be the rock for everybody. And meanwhile, her life is more turbulent than she knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we have Gaia. Well, actually, no. The spirit of Katie is visiting the colonel while he's at the mailbox, and he gets a letter from an old military friend of his.
Right. That's named like Tony or
Tubby. Which I was like, okay.
And so the spirit says,
I know why I'm here.
Yeah. So I'm like, we're left to really go, what?
Well, that was episode 11. I remember that's how it ended. I was like, why are you here? Tell me.
Right?
12 play.
Yeah, so we had a cliffhanger at the end of episode 11, and then we still get another big cliffhanger at the end of episode 12.
So she visits Gaia, and she tells Gaia why she's there, and she's kind of explaining like how when the Colonel was away, like Tubby would like look after her per his request, and she's like, oh, I don't want to hear this, la la la. Like, she's
Right.
like,
Right.
and she says that she never put the pieces together then, but she did now, and that Owen is possibly Tubby's son and not the Colonel's.
Oops.
And I like how she basically used every word in the book to call her a slut. She's like, you used to shame me for like flirting with married men. Meanwhile,
right? Oh my gosh. Which kind of gives some interesting dynamic on why the Colonel gives so much grief to Owen. It's like on some level he maybe feels like he knows that isn't his son. Who knows? You know what I mean? It's just kind of it's an interesting twist.
Yeah. It'll be interesting when Gina finds out also, if she finds out.
Well, eventually, but it'll get there, I'm sure. I don't know. I haven't watched season 4 yet, so here we go.
This is the point where I've seen clips here and there, but I really am going in blind, so I'm excited to see what happens.
Good.
I have the seasons, I just haven't gotten around to watching them yet.
Of course.
And we also have Lara proposing to Annie. And we didn't get an answer, so that was another cliffhanger. I was like, okay, we're gonna find out next season.
Right. She set up a really nice scene between the two of them, very intimate, very sincere. But yeah, Laura and all that baggage, you're just like, you can't help but be a little bit like, oh boy, we're going into this not very truthful, unfortunately.
And I think that was all the cliffhangers.
I think it was. I'm kind of like looking through the cast list again to see if something else jars my mind, but honestly, I think you nailed them all.
So, how would you rate this group of episodes?
I really liked this group of episodes a lot. I guess if we're going on like a 1 to 10 scale, I don't know. I'd give it like an 8 pushing to a 9. I really enjoyed that funeral scene and having everybody together and the interactions there and the humor that was there. I'm leaning more towards the 9 just because I enjoy the heck out of Gaia and her antics and how she emotes and the humor that she brings. You know, I love the surprise reveal that Gina and Richard had a kid and Gina kept it from him, and his reaction being so emotional and being very upset about it. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I'd probably say out of this bundled episodes together, I'd give it a 9. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was leaning towards a 9 also. It was really good.
Yeah, it was very well written, very well acted. A lot of stuff happened. The pacing kept going. I just really liked it. Now we're seeing this online soap, if you will, or whatever, go from maybe being like 10 to 15 minute segments to some of these were like 30 minutes long, and they didn't feel that way. And there was a lot of material and a lot of things that happened and some good pacing. So
I think the stories definitely benefited from them being a little bit longer because they were able to do more.
Yes.
So yeah, a 9 for me.
Yeah, nice.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, everyone, for another episode of Queers and Soaps and for Venice. And
more to come.
More to come, yes, definitely. We have like 3 more seasons, and I think a season 7 is coming out this year.
Got it.
They're filming it this year.
Okay.
As always, you can check us out on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next time, have a great weekend, guys. Bye.
Bye.